Welcome to the Infinite Life Podcast. I'm your host, Katish Haberfield. I am an intuitive sound healer and an incarnation guide. This podcast is for you if you wish to make sense of your life by understanding your past, present, and future incarnations. For we are all spiritual beings in a human body who have never died, just changed costumes from life to life in order to have experiences that help our soul grow and expand. My hope is that this podcast helps you weave together strands from all lifetimes so that you can make peace with your journey and understand that you are a perfect expression of your soul in this moment, in this incarnation. Welcome to episode 3. In this episode of the podcast today, I'm answering the question posed by one of our podcast listeners. Thinking about parallel lives, does sending healing energy in the present moment to a past life change the course of that lifetime? To answer the question, I'll cover the following concepts during this episode: parallel lives, linear reincarnation, the shower of healing, changing timelines, and soul retrieval. So, if you're wondering what the heck are those things, then this is the episode for you where we go deep into some of the things that are essential to understand when talking about the reincarnation system. So let's get into this week's episode. Today's episode we have a listener question, and this question is going to be the basis for all of the content on today's show. So thank you to Lo for submitting this question to me. Thinking about parallel lives, does sending healing energy in the present moment to a past life change the course of that lifetime? Okay folks, this is a deep question with lots of elements to it. I have an answer for you, but then there's a lot extra that I wish to explain and concepts to teach to truly give you insight into the complexities that this question has. So thank you, Lo, for really sending such a deep question, and the rest of the episode will actually cover the answer to this question. So for the rest of you listening to this podcast, when a listener poses a question like this, either by sending me a message from the group chat facility from Signal app or through leaving a question on the voice recorder, I believe it's important to address the question right away because it's important in the now moment and is an issue that that person is grappling with. I respect this, and I also respect my own time in that I may not be able to help create a podcast episode in the time frame needed to help. So this is an excerpt of what I responded to Lo after clarifying where the question came from and how it would help her to have the answer. In this case, she was thinking about a past life that she had as a man. And here's what I wrote in the text message. Be careful to examine your thoughts about his life, his being the soul incarnation. Every life is perfect and a balancing act. We have free will. The problem is that we look at life from the perspective of birth to death. Source looks at it as one continuing experience across all lifetimes, so each life is a chapter in a book. That is all vital to the story of the soul. So the question is, are you wanting to heal him because he needs fixing? Or is it you that you need to heal? What may be helpful is reframing how you view his incarnation. Make friends with him, because in the act of making friends with him, you are making friends with yourself. What you judge of him is what you are judging about yourself. There is no such thing as a wasted lifetime, and each lifetime is not about ticking the boxes to reach the finishing line the fastest with the most ticked boxes. Your soul grew tremendously because of his experience. If he had a vanilla lifetime of peace and happiness, that does not grow the soul. That rests the soul. He chose to do in essence a lifetime that did the hard work of bringing up the anger, a deep cleanse, so to speak. We must not repress anger. Without his hard work, you may have been born with, let's say, cancer or some kind of illness that manifests as a result of unexpected anger. So, if you'd like to send him healing, do it with the express feeling of gratitude. Be deeply grateful for his experience, because he did it so that you didn't have to go through that ever again. Don't send him healing. Send him love. He wants your love and gratitude, not your judgment. And most of all, he wants you to love yourself. Because in loving yourself deeply, truly, and despite your flaws, you love him. In loving yourself, you love every version of yourself throughout time. Concept: parallel lives. One of the things that was asked as a part of that question had to do with the concept of parallel lives. To understand the definition of parallel lives, we need to understand what time is. So let's just take a little bit of an adventure for a moment, and let's have a look at the definition of time in physics. In physics, the definition of time is simple. Time is change, or the interval over which change occurs. It is impossible to know that time has passed unless something changes. The amount of time or change is calibrated by comparison with a standard. The unit for time is a second. So, we as humans experience our life according to time. We organize our reality around the concept of seconds, minutes, days, hours, weeks, months, and years. Seasons are also another concept of time. We organise and process our lives around the notion that time moves forward in a linear fashion and that because of time we age. So we view the narrative of birth, life, decline, and death. We live in the now moment. A moment ago was the past, and in a moment is the future. But we can never access either future or the past, because the only moment we have is the now moment. It is important to note that every different culture and civilization has its own perspective and understanding of time. I won't even begin to expand on the different theories. I'll put in the show notes a link to an infographic that summarizes nicely some of the interesting theories of time. My teenagers and I have very heated debates about the notion of time, and I feel to do any justice to the concept of time, according to their scientific and historic brains, I would need them to be co-writers of this episode. And well, that would be impossible, for they do not know that this podcast exists. Yet. For it is rather delicious for me to share my thoughts without being judged right now. I will just share one interesting snippet about how our brains are created to help us understand and process the concept of time. This is from that infographic that I just mentioned, and it's from 2018. A team of Norwegian scientists, led by Albert Sau, found a network of cells within the brain that appears to play a crucial role in connecting an awareness of time's passage to the formation of memories. The study, conducted on rats, suggested that certain groups of cells within a brain region known as the lateral entorhinal cortex, which is adjacent to the hippocampus, encodes episodic memory by allowing the hippocampus to store a unified representation of what, where, and when. Interesting, isn't it? Right then, are you still with me? Let's also look about what Einstein said about time. Albert Einstein once wrote, "People like us who believe in physics know that the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubborn, persistent illusion. Time," he's alluding to, "is an illusion, and that true reality is timeless." However, in Mira Kelly's book, Beyond Past Lives, She points out that we live within a human body and we have a brain with a specific capacity to process information. Neurologically, we are only able to tune into the present life we know because this helps us to maintain a coherent sense of self. Although, if you are a podcast subscriber, I will debate that concept in the new bonus episode that has just gone live. So, if there is even the slightest possibility that we entertain the notion that time is not linear, it follows hypothetically that all incarnations are happening at once. Concept: linear reincarnation. Alrighty, so if you're anything like me, when you come across concepts, your brain hurts for a bit while you grapple with it, and you go from not understanding to kind of understanding to trying the concept out logically to eureka and integration. So, if time is a human Earth concept, and all lives possibly occur once, how does this work with the concept of the soul journey over time? If we live every life right now at the same time, how can we possibly learn from another incarnation? Because we're doing all of the incarnations right now. I know I've grappled with this one. Now, let me state out loud that this podcast is my legacy to my future self, to record my thoughts and realizations as I journey through this life. God knows I have hundreds of notebooks crammed with my jottings and realizations and highlighted quotes and articles. Have you ever seen the movie A Beautiful Mind with Russell Crowe? It's from 2001 and is a story about the mathematician John Nash. In a particularly poignant scene, John's wife goes into his shed and is horrified by what she sees. On the wall is a complex web of string, thumbtacks, and pieces of paper, as John's mind has seemingly tried to link together all the pieces of his mind and thoughts regarding a secret assignment. He had tried to look for hidden clues and patterns in magazines and newspapers to thwart a Soviet plot. Nash becomes increasingly obsessive in his search for these patterns, delivering his results to a secret mailbox, and comes to believe he's being followed. He is ultimately diagnosed with schizophrenia, but learns to heal his mind naturally later in life. So too is my mind, like John Nash's, when I grapple with all of my thoughts about spirituality and reincarnation. So this podcast is a way for me to organise those in a kind of logical and rational sequence, but also to teach myself as I ponder and answer your questions. So that's the long way around saying I reserve the right to change my mind about anything I say in this podcast later on when I know better. Here's what I know about this at the moment that makes sense to me. The soul chooses the lifetime it needs. It can also choose the time frame within which to be incarnated. However, when the soul incarnates as a human being on Earth, a planet which operates according to the laws of gravity and time, then the mind can only understand reincarnation according to linear time. And thus reincarnation is linear and sequential in the majority of cases, unless you choose to have multiple aspects of your soul incarnate at the same time as different human beings. That is the true definition of parallel incarnations. Choosing to have multiple aspects of your soul incarnate at the same time as different human beings. Yes, this is a real thing, and I have personal experience with this, but let's leave that for another time. For now, simply allow your mind to acknowledge that you understand time is an Earth and this universe concept, and that, although all incarnations exist at once, your beautiful brain needs only to cope with one incarnation at a time. And I'm not being patronising there. That is, the one brain that is listening to this podcast right now is the main incarnation you need to worry about. So the listener question asks, if all incarnations happen at once, essentially, can we access and influence the other incarnations in this now moment? Yes, We can connect to our other lifetimes through past life regression and in the dream state, and it appears as though life is occurring now, which it is. However, it is not helpful to split our mind and worry about what we are doing in another incarnation. Our job is to focus on the present moment, but to understand who we are as a result of our soul's journey, purely from the point of self-compassion. You do not need to become aware about the reincarnation system so that you can hate on yourself. You already do that enough. No, you become aware about the reincarnation system so that you can be more compassionate to yourself and to gain insight into your journey across time. Let me give you an example. Michael Newton, in the book Journey of Souls and Destiny of Souls, talks about different case studies. In one of them, he talks about the fact that each soul learns a lesson in its own way in its own sweet time. One of his clients took 750 years to learn the lesson of envy. It is our modern mind that stresses that we need to be perfect now. There's no need. Realize that notion here and now. When you strive so hard to be perfect and to overcome an emotion, you increase the intention upon it. And we know from the law of attraction that what you vibrate, you attract. You rob yourself of the present moment. Soothe your mind and focus on taking one breath at a time. Concept: healing our past selves through the shower of healing. If you're still worried about the concept of healing yourself, then take some console or relief from the following concept. After we die and cross over, we receive spiritual energy restoration. Michael Newton goes into this into detail with his books Life Between Lives Hypnotherapy and Destiny of Souls. But to give you the very brief executive summary, before we do our life review, which happens after we cross over, we receive a special energy healing treatment known as a shower of healing. Our treatment is highly personalized, but according to Michael Newton, includes 3 general categories. First category: the standard treatment before orientation for large numbers of souls. Second category: emergency treatment for souls whose energy has been damaged by a violent death. Third category: special treatment in recovery areas designed for souls who have been severely contaminated throughout an entire lifetime. This energy shower and healing is something that we need to understand exists, but is best left to the private realm of your soul. Most people will not detail this in Life Between Lives regression. They won't go into it, and it's best not to dig and probe. So, all you need to know is that you have already received healing for anything that you experienced in each incarnation through this shower of healing. If something is presently being triggered and coming up for you, and if you are shown a situation in a past life, it is because your soul wishes you to examine your current behaviors and thought patterns because they are similar to something you have already experienced. You are human after all, and just because we learn our lesson doesn't mean that we don't slip up and forget and need to revisit why we decided to think, act and behave in a different way. To give a non-past life example, when you have a baby, everything is new. You have to learn how to change their nappy, feed them, what the temperament and routine is like, and how to fit the baby into your life. It's all a new experience. And when that baby grows a bit, your mind forgets the minute details of the hardships of the learning of each step that you went through. Fast forward 24 months, and maybe you're blessed with another baby. Now you have 2. It seems overwhelming. How do you deal with both children? You may forget some of the nuances of the small things that you learnt with the first baby. You might be in the middle of trying to figure something out and think, "Oh my God, I forgot this was the easiest way to do it. Oh, I can't believe I forgot it. What was I thinking? I already knew how to do this." Do you see the parallel? Our brains can't store in our immediate recall every single thing we need to know in life. We file it away into our memory banks until something triggers us to stretch our brain, grab the letter, and find the correct book on the shelf of our brain that contains the answer we need. Having read the information in the book and accessed it, we then put it back on the shelf for future reference. So too it is with experiences in this life that are linked to experiences in other lives. Don't dwell on it. Don't shame yourself for it. Access it, find the learnings, integrate them, and then put them back on the shelf and continue living with your life. Concept: changing timelines. One of the other aspects of the question from our listener today involved changing the outcome of a lifetime. So let's have a look at another concept. Changing timelines. Isn't the point of it all that we can do a form of time travel like in the movie Back to the Future and do some healing and change our past life so that we can have a better outcome? Isn't that what the concept of parallel lives and no time is all about? Isn't it also what people talk about with quantum healing? Okay, so this is another concept that I've grappled with, and I will get a quantum healing expert to come on the show and give you their beliefs. But for me, here's what I understand right now. What I understand is that the Akashic Records contains an energetic imprint of all of your soul's incarnations. Furthermore, it contains an imprint of every possible thought, belief, and action that your soul could have possibly ever made or not made. It contains the energetic imprint of the complete totality of all possibilities. And again, I have an Akashic Records practitioner coming in on the podcast early next year, so we'll talk further about the Akashic Records then. But given that there is this energetic imprint of all possibilities, couldn't you just instruct your higher self to go back in time, to make a change or a modification to a decision you made, with the assumption that your higher self is going to make the modification that is in the very best interest of your soul? Couldn't we just do that? Well, let's just play through this thought and let's assume that your higher self does do this. What they are doing is shifting your timeline. You are potentially changing the trajectory of your life by quantum leaping to another timeline where the other set of possibilities exist. Think the moving Sliding Doors with Gwyneth Paltrow. The question is, do you really want to do that? You know what happened when Marty mucked with his past, right, in Back to the Future? He started to erase his parents out of the photo. My instinct, if your higher self, if asked to do that, they would do it for you, but they would shift the timeline in a small, tiny way. Unless it was important for you to make huge timeline shifts. Because your higher self, your angels and your spirit guides, everyone that's here to guide you in this incarnation, must respect your free will. That's the deal about being on Earth and being a human. We have free will to make any darn decision we like. We just have to learn to live with the consequences. Free will assumes that we have the power to do what is best for us, given a set of choices at a particular point in our life. We make the decision according to a whole bunch of elements, but we make the decision. Although it may seem later looking back that we made the wrong decision because it leads to an outcome that we did not desire, actually, that's bullshit. You're applying judgment there. There is no such thing as a mistake or a wrong decision, just as there's no such thing as coincidence. There's only a decision. Right or wrong is an arbitrary judgment. Just a decision. So the only reason that your higher self would ever wish to help you heal the other incarnation by changing timelines is if the tweak does not mess with your free will, but assists in relieving a block or limiting belief that you're experiencing in this lifetime that is now so detrimental that it's putting a brick wall up in front of what your soul agreed to achieve and experience in this lifetime, and because you asked for help. because remember, we have to respect the free will of the other incarnation. So I repeat, it has to be made without judgment and without impacting the free will of your soul in the other incarnation and benefit your best and highest need across all lifetimes and positively help you with limiting belief in this lifetime. So in fact, the timeline shift that you're asking for, that you're asking your higher self to facilitate, would be healing you in this lifetime, not healing the other incarnation. Let's just let that sink in for a minute. The purpose of any timeline shift is to heal you in this present incarnation, not to heal the other person, the other ego personality from your soul in the other incarnation. All healing is in the present moment, in the present lifetime. It occurs in the now moment. You still here? Thanks for sticking with me. I told you it was quite a meaty podcast episode, didn't I? And finally, we have one more concept to tie up and round out the answer to the question that was posed at the very beginning of this podcast. That concept is of soul retrieval. Okay, so you're probably thinking, Katish, that's wonderful, and that's a lot of theory, and I understand what you're talking about, but you're not really helping me, love. Everything in this episode that you've said makes sense logically to me, but I emotionally still need help. What can I do? Great, perfect. I'm glad you asked. This is my specialty. Let me suggest sound healing, energy healing, work with essential oils or flower essences that are specifically designed to assist with the issues that you are experiencing right now. I have a whole website devoted to sound healing and how we can do sound healing to help heal your concept and love of self, how to deal with troubling emotions, and I also have a wide and great expertise in essential oils and vibrational aromatherapy, although I made a decision to delete every single essential oil post off my website. The judgmental part of me would say, geez, that was a bad decision, love. 5 years at work down the toilet, and you know what? Actually, that information is still relevant to people, and even more relevant now you do sound healing with vibrational aromatherapy. But guess what? I had to purge that part of my career in order to bring it back as a component of sound healing. So stay tuned. I'll rewrite those posts at some stage. But if you have a question about essential oils, how to use vibrational aromatherapy to help you emotionally, I'm your gal and I can help you out. Also, I recommend that you examine your limiting beliefs, and the next time you decide to do a past life regression, ask that the journey through time be not only a regression, which gives you glimpses into your past life, but for it to include specific limiting belief-related therapeutic resolution in it. While you are in a hypnotic state, your mind is suggestible. So it is a perfect time to break the bonds of time and insert a suggestion to help you reframe the limiting belief. It can be done under hypnosis. So you could do a hypnotic journey that is just present life, so an age regression. You could also do hypnosis, plain old hypnosis that's not regression of any kind, that can look at limiting beliefs, or you can do a past life regression if that is a past life related limiting belief that you wish to break the bonds of time with. So there's multiple suggestions there. You can work with a hypnotist, a past life regression therapist, a sound healer. So the other suggestion that I have is to work with me and do a soul retrieval. I also do the past life regression and now the past life regression therapy as well. But the new tool that I have developed only recently is a soul retrieval. What am I talking about there? Isn't that a shamanic concept? Well, yes and no. It depends on how you look at it and what your intent is. In my process, I work with a client to determine what's been troubling them. Usually I've been working with the client for a while anyway, so I know what they've been going through. Then we go into a healing session where we relax the body deeply with sound and enter a hypnotic state through the use of sound. That's what my jam is, using sound as a facilitative tool for all emotional healing, present, past, future, or epigenetic. In a shamanic journey for soul retrieval, we go on a journey into a cave that represents your soul journey. The soul journey is the cave. Inside the cave, we look for treasure. The treasure is collected by you and put into your never-ending bag. You are asked not to analyze what the treasure is, simply collect it. When all the treasure is collected, we follow the cave to the light at the end, throw the treasure into the light, and then jump into the light ourselves. At this point, the magic happens, and the soul integrates the missing pieces, and the effect is immediate and truly mind-blowing. You experience bliss and peace and wholeness. Every part of you that you discarded over your incarnations, that you are ready to collect, is symbolized by the treasure, and you are reintegrated once more. So that is another suggestion that I might like to suggest to you. And at the moment, if you are listening in the present moment that this is recorded, being November of 2021, I do have a special on soul integration for $111 for a session. So if that is something that would be of interest to you, then please get in touch at katish.com and you can book a session there. So hopefully we've now come full circle, and if you're still listening to this episode, I congratulate you for getting through. The simple answer to the listener question is that all healing occurs through the now moment, so concentrate on the now. When you need to understand yourself, you can examine the past, just as we do when we study history, but the true secret to life is understanding that life is created in every moment. So take a deep breath, listen to your intuition, and do the best you can do right now. Or as Maya Angelou would say, when you know better, do better. And just a reminder before this episode finishes that the first bonus episode for podcast supporters is available now and will be available both in the Signal chat, but it is hosted and kept for you to access at our private section of katish.com. I'm about to let you know about the features of being a podcast supporter, but in order to actually join up as a podcast supporter, you just need to go to katish.com and click on the Infinite Life Podcast tab. Then you'll see a tab for the Infinite Life Podcast Supporter. At the moment, we also have a special promotion where you could win yourself a free month's podcast membership support by simply going to podchaser.com, finding the Infinite Life podcast and leaving me a review on either your favourite episode so far or an overall podcast review. You can also leave a review on the favourite podcast player of your choice, like iTunes or Audible or however you're listening to this today. What you'll need to do, however, is to sign up to the Infinite Life podcast newsletter, which is called Incarnation Insights. And once you've done that, hit reply on one of my newsletter emails and send me a screenshot of your review for you to be able to be in the draw for that one. Podcast supporters are a vital part of our community, and we interact together as a community via the Signal messaging app, which allows us to share photos, interact via video, share voice messages as well as text messages without the worry of social media listening in on your conversation. Podcast supporters are also invited to listen to special private podcast episodes and join in our monthly sound healing sessions via Zoom. Some supporters may even choose to receive wisdom from their higher self via group oracle card reading session via Zoom once a month. It's all about sharing, learning, and growing together as a community on this journey we call being human. And that, my friends, is the end of this episode. I look forward to spending more time with you next week. For further information about how you can use sound journeys to access other incarnations, you can visit my website at katish.com, where you can read my blogs and also subscribe to my newsletter, Incarnation Insights. To send me a story about one of your incarnation insights, head to the voice recording facility at katish.com/The Infinite Life Podcast. Until next time, take care.